ACLC is participating in the rate case. We participate in many of the cases involving Kentucky Power on the side of affordability. Our interest is in making sure that low-income customers can continue to afford utilities. And so we do work with Kentucky Power and East Kentucky Power Cooperative, and then we also do work on utility affordability for water utilities, water and sewer. And so that's a big part of the work that I do. And we find this work with Kentucky Power is particularly important because it affects so many of us. And because there are so many rate cases. This is the third rate case that they have had in the past 5 years, I believe. So it keeps coming. They keep trying to raise the rates. So tonight, the reason I'm here is basically just to give you all some information about what we've been learning about the case, because we are parties in the case, so that you all can take that home and consider it and talk to your neighbors about it and write comments. That's really what we want more than anything, is to get a lot of written comments or oral comments. There's going to be a couple of public hearings, 3 public hearings. But what we found is that the Kentucky Public Service Commission, who is in charge of deciding whether or not to allow this rate increase to happen, they are really responsive to what they're hearing from the communities. So when you write your comments, it's really, really important. They are heard. There's probably been 50 to 75 comments already filed in this case, and it's just getting started. I think you all are probably aware that Angie Hatton from Whitesburg is the chair of the Public Service Commission, so she has a critical role in deciding what kind of rate increase they're allowed to have, what it looks like, whether they're allowed to have a rate increase. So it's really important that she hear from all of us here. So I have been circulating, Courtney's been helping me a lot to circulate a handout that tells you how to write comments. Yes.
I'm sorry. Did anybody reach out to Angie to see if she wanted to participate in this, or?
I did not. That would probably have,
Well, I would have been.
it's a bit of an oversight on our part, but I think probably because of her role as commissioner, she probably would not
Show us, so
come.
she's trying to.
But she will be, well, she needs, yeah, she has to be neutral.
Right, okay.
Because it is her decision, it's her commission that will be making the decision. But there are going to be 3 public comment periods. And the next one, the first one is going to be in Pikeville on Thursday night, and I think she will probably be there. So let me just say that I have circulated, or Courtney has circulated to all of you, just a sheet that tells you how to write comments or who to send the comments to. It's basically this information. You can mail your comments, you can email your comments, or you can attend one of the 3 public hearings. The first one is going to be Thursday night in Pikeville, and state your comments orally. But we wanted to provide some just basic information about this latest rate case, because it's a little complicated. And there's some different things that they are proposing that haven't been in past proposals, and I think if people want to weigh in on those particular parts of what they're proposing, I think that would be really important for the PSC to hear. So the first thing is, if they get approval, the new rates will go into effect March 1st. So you will see the change in your bill by March 1st if they get the approval for this rate increase. They are asking for about a 15% rate increase, and that's an average rate increase. So you'll see in some later slides, we break it down to show, it's based on usage to show that you're basically, customers who use less will have a higher rate of increase than customers who use more. That's the way they're proposing it. And then third, our expert has looked at the numbers and all of the different types of charges that they have, and has found that Kentucky Power bills have already increased 40% since 2020. And I'm sure you all know that. You all get the bills, you know what's happening. Kentucky Power justifies its request for a rate increase primarily because the demand is declining. Basically, they're saying that because people are moving out of the area, there are fewer people to spread the cost across, and so the rates have to increase. Because the ones of us who are left are the ones who have to pay for it. That's pretty problematic for a number of reasons. I'm going to show a slide in a minute, but there's no end to this. If people continue to leave, the rates are going to keep going up according to Kentucky Power. The second justification for the increase is that there are costs that they have not yet been able to recover that are related to the Mitchell coal-fired power plant that's in Wheeling, West Virginia. Wheeling, I don't know, Wes, it's far, I don't know, about 400 miles from here or so. So they're trying to recover some costs from that coal-fired power plant that they have not been able to recover in other proceedings. They're also asking for a rate increase because, again, they haven't been able to recover all of the cost of purchasing fuel and purchasing power from other power companies when there are storms. So they're saying there have been some excess costs in the past that they haven't been able to recover on the bills, and they want to be able to recover them now. And then finally, they're asking for a 0.25% increase in their return on equity, which is essentially profit. They're asking for an additional profit margin. One of the things that we find most troubling about all of this is that they are claiming that they need the rate increase because of the population decline. There was a study from 2022 from the University of Louisville that looked at the projected population decline across Kentucky. Kentucky Power's region is going to have the highest level of decline. And if you look at this map, you see that these are the counties that are within Kentucky Power's service territory. You see that some of those counties are projected to decline in population by 30 to 40% by 2050. And so they're already saying that they're increasing the rates because they have fewer customers to spread the cost across. But if the customers are if that number is going to keep decreasing, by their logic, they're going to keep jacking these rates up and up and up. So there has to be an end to that. Yeah, right. I mean, it's becoming more and more unaffordable, not just for low-income customers, but for middle-income customers. These bills are going up and up and up. Another piece of the problem with Kentucky Power's, in Kentucky Power's territory and with their proposal is they're looking at this problem, which is this higher graph. The blue is the usage by month for the customers that qualify for LIHEAP. These are the low-income customers that get low-income housing, heating, and energy assistance. So these are the customers that Kentucky Power defines as their low-income customers. And they are saying that essentially these are the customers that use the most power because of inefficient heating systems, because of poor insulation, and because of they're using resistance heating. And you can see this is the average winter usage is about 1,800, but for the low-income customers, it's way up here above probably 2,800. So it's a huge difference in the amount of power that Kentucky Power says their low-income customers use versus their average customers. So that, you'll see in a minute, one of their proposals is in response to that. So what they're proposing particularly, and this is what they say is responding to those affordability concerns. They are first proposing that for any usage above 600 kilowatt hours, the amount per kilowatt hour is going to be less. So if you use more, those higher usage amounts will cost less than the lower usage amounts. However, they are increasing the base rate overall, so everyone is going to pay more just to have a meter. But those customers that use over 600 kilowatt hours are going to be paying less for those kilowatt hours above 600 kilowatt hours. They're also proposing this flex pay system, which is particularly problematic. They have already gotten approval to change out all of the meters to what are called advanced meters. And so advanced meters don't require meter reader. They allow the company to essentially read the meter from their offices. They also allow the company to disconnect from the office. So what they are proposing to do is create a flex pay system where customers can essentially prepay for their power. And say you prepay $500 for your power. Once you use enough to get down to $50, they'll send you a text and say, oh, you're almost out. You need to don't, they will automatically disconnect from their office. They don't even have to go out to do that anymore. So they're saying that that is going to help the customers who cannot afford, because they'll be able to pay a little bit at a time rather than having to pay one big bill at the end of the month. There's nothing stopping people from paying a little bit at a time now. This is not, this is not the solution to the problem that they say it is. This is kind of down in the weeds of what it's going to look like, but essentially they are proposing that the current base rate just to have a meter is $20. They're proposing that it go up to $26 for any usage below 2,000 kilowatts, and then once you get above 2,000 kilowatts, your base rate would go up to $40. They're also proposing this declining block rate. This is what I was talking about, where if you use more than 600 kilowatt hours per month, the usage rate for that amount above 600 kilowatt hours is going to be less. So they're trying to bring that curve down. And then finally, they're proposing an additional rider that will be just for additional expenses for the Mitchell plant that they haven't been able to recover in other cases. So there'll be another rider added to your bill.
Could I do something there?
Yeah.
That Mitchell plant belongs to AP. It doesn't belong to Power.
It's half and half now. They've gotten it to where, well, go ahead.
Well, that was my understanding, is that in our public service commission, it told Kentucky Power, Kentucky Power, Pike 2028, West Virginia's extended that to 2040.
So they're changing that so that Kentucky Power will get half of the power from that plant going forward.
But it's not Virginia. They're buying it from AEP. Is that correct? Is that a correct statement?
AEP owns it.
Yeah, and I think they're going in, it's essentially both of them. Or, yeah, AEP owns Kentucky Power, but Kentucky Power has a right to half of that.
Throughout the United States, they have over 40,000 miles of transmission lines, over 250,000 miles of distribution lines. Their CEO's compensation was over $13 million last year, and he didn't start until late in the year.
And I don't know exactly, I just know that they have fought to keep their ability to continue to use the Mitchell Power Plant, and they have essentially won that fight, and now they are projecting to continue to use half of the power from the Mitchell plant going forward past that 2028 deadline. That deadline is Yes. And I want to say I'm not an expert, I'm just learning about this, and Courtney is writing down questions, so if there are questions that we don't know, we're going to try to find out for you, and also we're going to submit them to the PSC and say these are the questions that people have. Which line is it? You want to run the one with all the numbers?
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I should have said, I have copies of this. If anybody wants a copy of the PowerPoint?
Yeah, I've been taking pictures.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I should have said.
I do.
I can, after I'm done, just
Just
come
go
up and
ahead,
get
yeah,
one.
do your thing. So you have copies of every.
Yeah.
I do. I'll work all these.
I
don't understand that because it's talking about, the rate for higher users, but the base rate there,
Goes up.
yes.
So they say, in their testimony, they say that they did this, they wanted to protect the higher users. They wanted to make it so that their increase would not be so significant, but they also wanted to put a guardrail in it that would keep people, incentivize people to stay below 2,000 kilowatt hours per month. Which, as if you're going to know what, exactly when to.
Like we have a meter
2,000.
sitting,
Right,
next
right,
to it.
it really doesn't make sense, but you're absolutely right, like there is a disconnect there, that it's not entirely internally consistent. So here's what it would look like based on usage. So this is the base rate, so here it goes from 20 to 40, and these are the usage numbers, and then this little amount at the top is that generation rider from the Mitchell plant. And one thing, we find really problematic is if you look at the percent increase in the bill, the percent increase is much higher for lower usage customers than it is for the high usage customers. So they're really disincentivizing people from trying to save high in January, so you turn the heat down, and you do everything you can to seal up your windows, and they're really disincentivizing that. They're saying, you know, use more, we're gonna charge you less for that energy you use that's above the standard rate. Because they get more money with this. And this is just a specific example of what the current bill would be. And this doesn't include all of the riders and adjustments. We'll look at that on the next sheet. But this is just the current bill without the riders and adjustments and taxes. So at 600 kilowatt hours per month, it would be $96.71. It would go up to $123.61, which is a 28% increase. But if you're up here at 3,600 kilowatt hours per month, which is a lot, but you know, a lot of people have that in January, especially if you have, you know, if you have a poorly insulated house, if you don't have enough insulation, you're going to get that high. Your bill's probably $480 now. It's going to be about $531. That's an 11% increase. So that's a smaller increase for those high bills.
They do anything to pick on their costs.
Are they? I'm sorry.
Are they doing anything to pick on their costs?
No, I mean, they're asking for another, they're asking for a 0.25% profit increase. They're not,
Well, I pointed, they're paying Sunday, you know, get one of my toes. We're sitting around on that, it took them 2 weeks to cut trees over there, they took me down to, 2 days. They got,
and I think that is the kind of thing to put in a letter. I think that not only the, you know, how hard this increase would be on people here, how unfair it is the way they structured it, but also what poor service you're getting, essentially.
We find ways to save money.
Can I make a statement? I mean, I'm looking at their reason for rate increases, but then I look at their profits. I look at their profits over the last 5 years with just Kentucky Power. Kentucky Power, 2021 made over $50 million in profit. 22, they made $47 million in profit. 23, they made 33, almost $34 million in profit.
See, it's going down.
If you take their parent company, AEP, in 19, they made $19.2 billion. All right, 22 billion, 24 billion, 23 billion, 22 billion, and almost $27 billion in profit those years, and they're telling me that they can't operate on that?
Right.
Where's their profits going? And I understand they got stockholders. I own stocks. I like to see an increase, but I don't have to have a 30% increase.
And they'll say that Kentucky Power is the least well-performing of the AEP companies. And their profits are so much less than AEP, so you shouldn't look at AEP's profit.
No,
This is
you
just
look at
about
the whole of that
Kentucky Power.
monopoly is what you look at. You look at the whole
They haven't
monopoly.
just paid a dividend since 1910. The dividend this year, AEP's paying per share at 95 cents, and that's quarterly per share. The share is at $2.42 today. They are a well-run company, don't get me wrong. They're, as he said, it's a great company to buy stock in. But as part of their internal memo saying, let's just keep punching every year for rate increases.
Yeah.
Is that their theory of business?
Yep.
That's-
That's what it seems like.
Yeah, one of the
It does,
worst
but it's-
communities in the whole country. Yes.
That is what it seems like. And especially seems that way
The crook.
to me when they continue to say, for Kentucky Power, that because the population is declining, because they're losing demand, we'll need another increase. I mean, it seems like that is just a cycle that's never going
Would
to
they
end.
just be commercial less electricity in this area?
But they say that still they have to have the transmission lines, they have to.
Then the federal energy regulatory agency wouldn't let them sell to Liberty because they said, we're afraid the rates will go up under Liberty.
Right.
It's unstoppable, isn't it?
Right.
You know?
Well, they did, in Liberty, didn't have any guarantee that they could perform for any period of time at all, really.
And other companies that AEP owns, they're getting more population. They're going up. We're wanting to say, Kentucky Power is killing us, we have to raise rates. But I think you have to look, as he said, at the parent company.
Well, I think, you have to look at the parent company and then also think about what the future expenses for Kentucky Power are going to be. They're saying that they're going to ask for another certificate of public need necessity to build another gas-fired power plant. We feel like they're not doing nearly enough to help people with efficiencies. If the problem is really that you have these spikes in January, then look at ways to decrease those spikes by helping people weatherize their homes, rather than making people spend, whatever it's going to take to build another power plant and have that on the bills for the next 50 years. So we really need to be focused on how to get those spikes down and make people's houses more efficient, help people with the affordability problem that way, rather than continuing every 2 years coming back with another rate increase.
And do they offer any programs for our people to fix these energy leaks? We know we have problems with housing. We know they don't have our people don't have resources to repair their homes, to take care of these leaks. Do they offer?
They have some.
They're being penalized for their inability to afford this. And how are they going to get ahead? They're not.
Yeah, they have some programs, but they are not. We were in a demand side case about the efficiency. The last case we were in with Kentucky Power was on the efficiency question, and they were not ready to say we're going to put programs in effect that will reduce the consumption by X%. They're just saying, oh, we're going to give money. They gave some grant funding to the community action agencies for weatherization. They have a couple of weatherization programs, but they only help, like 40 to 60 households. It's a drop in the bucket.
Based on
compared to
R
what's needed.
values, if they test that house and that R value don't meet their limits or expectations, you don't really qualify for one year.
Yep.
And they're trying, there are some programs that people are advocating for that would help people get to the point where they would qualify. It's a step-by-step process that would have to go through. But it seems they're more interested in just continuing to raise the rates rather than investing money in those weatherization programs that would really work to bring down people's bills. And this is my last slide. It's just showing, this is what a current bill looks like. And it has, the rate billing, and it has all of its adjustments and riders and credits. Most everything we've talked about would just be in this line on rate billing. So you would see an increase in this line. It would not be itemized. We just see that it's more than it used to be. And then there would be one additional generation rider for that Mitchell plant.
I'd like to know whose bill that is. I haven't seen one of that looks in the It's in the office.
I'm dealing with that.
They've spent zero in the last 5 years on development generation. All they've got is the big sandy gas power. They're buying off the grid, they're buying off the parent company. I wouldn't mind paying 20% increase if we were paying that toward a buyout by rural electric cooperative. That parent company. In my mind, that's what needs to happen.
Well, I've got a cousin who's the assistant DA in Carter County. He also sits on the Grace Rural Electric Co-op. They pay twice. They pay double for power. They buy it from Kentucky Power, but their bill is double what a Kentucky Power bill is. Now, I don't, he sits on the board, and I said, well, if it's the same lines, if it's the same infrastructure, why don't you just negotiate a deal with Kentucky Power? If you're paying double through the co-op.
Or somebody else.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah,
We used to have the lowest rates in the nation.
yeah, we did.
Sure did.
Back
And
before they
now-
sold us out on the coal.
Kentucky Power is the highest in the state, I thought, but maybe Grayson is higher.
Well, I did some comparisons. I got bills from Lincoln Valley, Rural Electric Cooperative. For a church, we're paying 9.89% higher bills than Kentucky Power. For residents, it's 36.12%. For the schools, it's 64.42% higher. Somebody will have to verify my numbers, because I
Yeah.
put this together quick. Compared to Cumberland Valley Rural Electric, I got the bill for the Arlie Dog School, 160% higher.
Really?
So that, I'm telling you that,
Well, that would, are you going to submit those with your comments?
I did, but it was good.
You should submit those with your
I know
comments.
how dirty they are. My sister moved to Tennessee, she was gone for 1 month. She, I worked her off, she left on the water, come back here, burn her, it was twice what it was, the previous month.
Yeah.
I've heard of all those, so.
Well, the new meters, I questioned the new meters when I started putting them in.
Well, have they started?
Oh, yeah, we've had them for some time.
Okay, because I
There's-
haven't deployed them
All
across.
they do is just push a button on the computer in their office,
Yeah.
and basically they can make it say anything they want to. It's not a mechanical meter.
Yeah, like the water bill. If you
You
got
know,
a
the
double
water
water
bill's the
bill,
same
or
way, they don't have to
messed
look
up,
at
how
the
many
meter,
times?
they can read it from a computer screen in their office.
I've
That's
said
how
for
they can
years,
fix
since
it.
That's why you're right, that's how they can
I've said for years since they went to those digital ones,
Yep.
Because of
that's
the
when I
reading
noticed,
from
you
the
know,
office.
just.
That's when I noticed my bill started.
Let's go with her.
To me, that's,
Yeah,
yeah,
let's go with
that's
her.
the true reading.
You can go out there and try to monitor and like write the number down on the first of each month just to see how many kilos. I know you got to.
I don't know how you would catch them. Do you think you can?
Well, you can write down the numbers, but it doesn't make any difference if they want to change the numbers from the computer screen.
Exactly.
Because they don't
It
have,
doesn't
they
show
don't,
the bill, it doesn't show the, just shows the usage.
just that shows you. Yeah.
So that, I want to let everyone know, we've got the city council meeting tonight. I am here if, as ACLC, we are involved in this case. We're going to continue to be involved in these Kentucky Power cases going forward. We're just here to encourage people to submit your comments, let your voice be heard. If you all have questions that we haven't been able to answer, Courtney's been writing some down, please try to get up with me. I will, try to research and find out what we can, or say to the PSC, look, these are the questions that the community has that haven't been answered. I really encourage everyone to go, whoever can, to the Pikeville meeting on Thursday night.
That's hard.
Yeah, I know.
Will they
It's kind of
accept,
hard.
will they accept the form letter and do like a petition thing, or that, like, have 100 copies and people just sign?
Yeah, that's one thing I was.
They will. It's not as powerful as these individual stories about what you've
But
dealt
they
with.
will consider that.
Yes, they will. They will. They
And
will.
I've also, realistically, in your opinion, in your experience, what do you think the chances are that this would go through, what they're wanting to do? What do you think are the chances?
I mean, I think that realistically, what we saw in the last rate case is there were a lot of comments, and they got about half of what they asked for. I
So
think
it may be the same.
so it would,
They get-
I
they
think
get that
realistically, you can anticipate that if a lot of people come in and say that this is, really going to harm the area, that they won't get as much as they're asking for.
But they'll still.
What we would like to see is pushback, significant pushback against this idea that the answer is always to raise the rates because the population is declining, because that can't continue. They have to start thinking about
They can't
efficiencies.
afford to live here.
Right.
This is why they're
Somebody
saying-
asked that question about why they are, or what they are,
I would
to the
too.
population. We've been talking about basically the increase in the population.
Right.
What happens when the population declines more as a result of the increase?
What they've said, and what I've heard their officials say, they focus on the economic development. They say we are providing grant funding for economic development to fight the population decrease. They don't, I have not heard them address that head on, other than to say, we need more economic development here in this region. And here to support
When they
that.
sold that, he's the one that always says, have you looked into where those grants held, whatever they're asking for?
Some,
They only, really, it would only be 8%.
Yeah. I think that
And they basically,
we all know, we're all in touch
what wages
with people.
would go
When
up.
the almighty dollar is involved, it trickles down to the citizens having to be responsible to build that up.
You got the
And
people.
so sad, we have to make our voices heard. And it's discouraging to know that it hinges on this small group of people because we don't have a lot that it came out. My
I
biggest,
brought extra handouts. If anyone wants to take handouts for their friends and neighbors, stand on the church.
my biggest concern is this. Every time they go for a rate increase, they insult our intelligence by asking for 15%. They're giving half of that, when more than likely half of that is what they wanted to begin with. Let's shoot for higher, and then they'll give us this, and
Just not,
then
just like go.
and they pass us back and say, we represented you all the way that we feel like we should represent you all, when if we got it broke off in a second.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Yes, it's discouraging to know that we're here and we're concerned that is this going to happen again to where they want that rate increase and, oh, we're not going to give them that, we're going to give them half of that.
It doesn't feel like a real process to you.
Yeah, and then in another 3 or 4 years, they're probably gonna do this same exact thing.
And they'll get what they wanted originally.
Over and over and over and over. You know, it's been.
I still haven't found that kind of room for it. That's
Stick that in there. It'll remind you.
You talked about that, the declining population, but the problem I have is, it's not a flat rate, it's a percentage. And every year, it's a compounding percentage. So next year, 10% is more than 10% this year. Because of the fuel rates. And the old water company does the same thing. I'm not gonna bring them in, but they get 3% every year. 3% next year is more than 3% this year. So where does it stop? To where you're completely poverty and you can't afford anything?
We already are.
It's not a flat rate. It's not like they're asking for a $20 raise every year. Might be $20 raise this year, next year, 30, the year after that's 60, the year after that's 80. It's compounding. That's how millionaires make money, it's compounding. It's just every year is more and more. And it's just, it makes people move, me and my wife consider moving. Because we can't afford to live here.
Yeah, me and my wife was talking about
We
it.
don't get public
That's
assistance.
important.
We're over the level of public assistance. So we fund our lives completely, so we're getting to the point we can't afford to live. We was talking about if we moved to Tennessee, we could get around $1,000 a month raise just by not paying power, water, and property taxes in Letcher County, Kentucky. I mean, it's really, it's to the point where we're one of the poorest areas in the nation, but our cost of living is just, it's compounding.
And that compounds the electricity, the water, and everything.
Everything compounds.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, in addition to just getting as many comments as possible about, no, you're not going to change this area, you can't afford it. To the extent that people can have some vision for what they could afford, I, to me, is focus on efficiency, how to make these houses that are losing so much electricity, how to bring those houses into, make them more efficient.
What the hell's the difference?
That's where our should extending its resources on this capacity.
That too.
And they got,
It's not more efficient. During summertime, we use heat pump for air conditioning.
must.
Fall hits, we turn our heat pump off, we go straight with propane. My heat pump does not come on again until next spring. My power bill stays the same.
Drink pair of stoppers.
And so with this plan,
They're
because you're losing,
They
you're
make
using less than.
I'm losing so my street pro.
In a percentage.
My power bill stays the same. I don't understand that, and then I can't explain that to them. They don't have to. They don't have to.
It is they know we have to pay. So they don't have to explain
Now, would they ever
anything.
be
It's
able to-
not likely that we get to have these many, if it were not for you all, it would just,
3 years ago, the
whatever
last
they want
part
to
of
do,
it
that's what they would do. They
Basic.
don't feel like they owe us an explanation because they're providing a service for us that they know we have to have.
Okay.
And I'll just also
Bill right
add
now.
to this conversation that,
49.
and for what it's worth, there is a complaint procedure with the PSC. If you have specific things that the power company, it seems wrong, that they're messing with the bill, they're not Hey,
nothing you can do with it.
The line that's down, that's.
And it lays on
the
that
power
government-
things
that
like that. You
government
can
control.
submit complaints to the PSC, and they will open investigations. So you can kind of use the PSC as a good intermediary for when you're really not
Well,
getting
you
any
gotta work
customer
with
service from that.
All people
You
have.
know, one thing they are
You
good
gotta
at,
work
when power does go out, or at least in my her community, they do get it on pretty quick. That's about it.
But you can bet if they have a bunch of lines there, they're going to be hired. I know one woman last year, her bill went up, $12, $13.
Yeah,
It jumped almost $600 in one year. The next day, they don't know how they would get paid. That's like I said, my state's the same, but if I was using my heat pump, mine would go from about $450 to $500 a month. When I was
just
there,
saying, they don't have to explain anything.
it would go to probably between $8,000 and $10,000. Just by me using my heat pump.
Facts of this, when it comes down to the final thing. Exactly what they do. They're natural guys. They're gonna jump natural guys. They've already turned the license, start turning the license. I got, he's 23 years old. You know, he only goes up to he told me any well, 3 of them. Gonna give to the right? Give. That's the way they feel. When it comes down, that's when you go. No matter what it's approved,
Years ago, when they switched all the digital meters, I don't remember anybody seeing her. Anybody.
So I just want to say thank you all very much for coming out. I really appreciate all of your questions. Please take extra handouts if you can and give them to your friends and neighbors, take them to church. Just get as many people to comment as possible. ACLC is very committed to basically all energy and water affordability issues. So if you have problems and questions about that, please come and talk to me. I'm